Hi, everyone. Well, we're very excited for you. We have a live panel tonight with real people who have gotten real outcomes and real success stories by understanding finally their food sensitivities through food mapping, Dr. Maggie.
I think that the best way that people learn is actually through stories. I also know that the best way that people learn is through emotion, feeling, and identifying with other people who've gone through the same story or same journey and the emotional toll and impact and what their experience is. So today we're going to have three people where they're going to be real stories, real journeys, real emotion, real outcomes, and here we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us on this special live event. I'm your co host, Anna Manuel, alongside Dr. Maggie Yu. And so happy that you're putting this on again tonight, Dr. Maggie, because last week we really had a great conversation all about food mapping, and we'll get into what that means in just a moment. But thank you again for just being here and presenting this.
Yeah, I think we had such a huge response in that video on YouTube, has been viewed so many times, and on Facebook as well. I mean, we did a showdown, right? I think food sensitivities, there's so much misunderstanding around it and how it relates to health and how I had to create a whole new system, the food mapping system, to really be a solution for people's food sensitivity problems. And it's not just about food sensitivity testing. So I mean, I love the fact that if you guys missed that last week, I mean, type in chat if you want last week's. That was the food sensitivity live. Put last week's live in chat and we will hook you up so you can watch last week's live as well. By the way, if you're an alumni or anyone who's been through any of our programs, type in chat. I would love if you can share with the audience what food struggles or food trauma you had, how it related to your health, and what outcomes you got. Share it with me. And if you're watching and you're new to me, tell me where you're watching from and what are some of the health challenges that you're dealing with. Would love to hear from you as we go through what we covered last week and where we're going this week with this.
And what questions do you have as it relates to your food sensitivities, maybe some of your symptoms? We'd love to hear about it. And maybe you'll have questions even for some of our panelists coming up a little bit later about their experiences going through the food mapping system. Okay, so
Yeah.
Dr. Maggie, I know we had a whole live show about it last week, but for those who may have missed it, maybe you could give us a brief overview of what is the difference? What is food mapping and how is it so different from food sensitivity testing that you might see elsewhere?
Yeah, and last week really separated the two, meaning that food sensitivity testing is not the food mapping system, and people really need a system to solve these really complex problems. And so, really, right here, the food mapping system is what you see here. On the very left upper corner, you're going to see digestion and the gut. Nobody dealing with food allergies, nobody, I don't care if it's your allergist, your GI doctor, or your naturopath, is dealing with food reactions by mastering, helping you and teaching you to understand the steps in digestion that's broken for you. I said last week that 50% of reactions that you're having to food is not allergy related, it's actually digestion related. And that is a truth bomb you can take to the bank. Okay. And so this is why, as part of the food mapping system, you have to learn how to master digestion. And please stop begging your doctor because they don't know jack about digestion. So we had to create a system, a training, a mastery level training for people to identify and deal with their digestion issues to get 50% of those reactions down flat immediately. So digestion is a huge part of the food mapping system. Number two, you got to get accurate data, and accurate data is really scarce and hard to get out there. So getting the accurate data and testing, just like we do in our programs, really critical. And we talked about it last week. But also you mastering all the intricacies of that data is key. How many of you guys have had food testing done and had over 50% of things light up and you had to eliminate 50, you were told to eliminate 50% of those foods and you didn't even get better, right? That's crappy. And that's either a bad test or a provider who hasn't had any training, mastery level training to understand some of these are false positives. They're not even real. So if you have a provider who can't tell reality, fact from fiction, you're screwed because then everything looks like it's a positive when it's maybe even 80% of them aren't real, right? So there are problems, real problems with provider training with this. And then on the left lower corner, you see histamines. Everybody thinks that histamines and food allergy just causes allergic reaction. And I was able to show that histamines are related to chronic pain, related to autoimmune issues, related to cardiovascular issues and POTS, related to skin issues, even cancer, and brain health. So we go into the role of histamines and how it impacts on all your other symptoms. And then finally, why we're so dang nutritionally depleted, because you ain't absorbing jack. So on the right lower corner is nutrition and absorption, and we have to fix and address those problems. And that's the entire food mapping system in a nutshell.
We are getting a ton of comments from people who might have missed that live session last week saying they want to get the link for it again. So rest assured, we will get you that link, because it really lit a fire up in the people that you should have seen the comments and the conversation that was ongoing with that. People were having light bulb moments go off that these things were connected, and how your system that you created with food mapping is so different from food testing that you might get at a conventional medicine doctor or even a functional medicine doctor. This is a specific system that you created, and it encompasses everything that you just discussed. But tonight, we didn't want you to just take our word for it, right?
Well, before we go jump into that, though, I'm going to tell you guys, the food mapping system was in our and is a huge part of our main program called the Transform Fundamentals main program. And only in December, we just launched the food mapping program as a separate standalone program. So today we're really focusing on the standalone food mapping, my food mapping masterclass, just so you guys know. So, and just so you guys know, it's also a part of our main program, but it's the first time we separated and carved it out as a standalone program. And it's a new offering from us because people kept asking and screaming for it. Can I just do food mapping? Can I do the food mapping with you? And the answer is yes, yes, and hell yes. And here we go.
For the first time ever. And so I know there's a lot of excitement about it, and we will give you links if you want to get more information about ways to sign up. We will have links for you in the form of a QR code coming up in just a bit. But
we had Trusha just signed up. We had Carol just signed up. We had Jennifer just signed up just in the last 24 hours. So thank you.
Perfect. So yeah, it's one thing to hear all about it, but it really is another thing when you hear from people that actually went through and did the food mapping system with you, Dr. Maggie. As you mentioned, it is a part of the main Transform program. Now you have it as its own standalone program, but these people were able to go through it as part of the main Transform program and see just how their lives changed as a result of it. So I can't wait for you to hear. We're going to have stories from 3 people tonight about exactly what was going on with them before and where are they now. So maybe without ado, let's welcome our first guest. Let's bring in Patty. Patty was dealing with a lot of different issues that she can tell you a little bit more about, and then we'll hear how she's doing now. So Patty, thank you for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you personally, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, so my name obviously is Patty. I'm 56 years old, and I don't know if I have anything interesting to say because I really want to talk about food mapping, honestly.
Well, I know you had mentioned children. Tell us just a little bit maybe about your family.
Yeah, so I'm married. I have 3 adult children. I live in New York. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, Patty, about what brought you to this in the first place, and how did you know, or what were the light bulb moments for you when you realized, I think I have some issues with food that need to be addressed?
Well, I was having eczema, and I've had eczema and psoriasis on and off since I've been 12 years old. And I was also having episodes of vertigo, and I was really concerned about that. But also I was on vacation, and I started to have more dots in other places like that I thought were bug bites. And I realized it was starting to become even more systemic and going to different parts of my body too. And so I signed up, and I really wanted to give it a try.
What I'm hearing is that this was lifelong problems for her, Dr. Maggie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing is, a lot of people, and we spoke to Sylvia from Peru earlier today, people think that eczema is a problem that's in the realm of dermatologists or allergists, and they struggle with it for decades or years without getting actual real outcome. I mean, did you go the whole conventional route like Sylvia did? And how many of you guys out there are dealing with eczema? Type in chat, or your kids are, put in chat. they don't even believe, allergists and GI docs don't believe that eczema has anything to do with food. So how many years did you go about that route? And did you receive all those treatments and testing?
I would say on and off throughout my life, there was only one thing that I was offered, and it was usually some type of steroid cream. And lately, but like earlier in the year when I used it, I found out that when I would try a little bit and then I would get more spots somewhere else. And I said, I can't use this. And then I went to the allergist, and the allergist said, oh, those tests, for food testing. And I was told, no, like that's not gonna help you. Those aren't accurate.
So you were running up against brick wall after brick wall. You weren't getting any better, and it sounds like in some cases it was starting to just get worse. And I'm hearing frustration, and I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been until how did you come across the Transform program?
I think I was watching an autoimmune summit, and there was a woman who was a melt person, and she was saying, you have to, she was saying to the moderator, like, you have to interview Dr. Maggie Yu. You have to, like, she was real. And so then I went into the Facebook group, and then I just started watching the videos.
And then it clicked for you that this was somewhere finally where you thought you could get answers and solutions.
Yeah. And it was an investment, and I talked to my husband about it, and we thought, like, it's not just an investment for now, it's an investment for the rest of my life. So it completely made sense.
Well, I want to hear, what did you learn then about your food testing while in the program? What was shocking to you?
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, so there's a few things. So first of all, I'll say that I was eating plant-based, and then so I found out what items I was actually allergic to that were regularly in my diet, like bananas, dates, kale, pineapple. That was one thing. And then also my body was giving me signals that I was allergic to dairy, but that showed up that I was highly allergic to cow's milk. And then I also found out that I had a nut allergy. That I was allergic, like almonds, macadamia nuts, and Brazil nuts showed up as, like I was having Brazil nut every day for the selenium.
Well, a lot of people that they're like, it's healthy and I have a thyroid issue, I'm going to take selenium. And so here's the really interesting thing. I talked about this in my live training about the difference with the testing that we do and the education we do is there's a huge genetic component to the data that we collect. And there were hidden clues. And I said, hey, Patty, if you have this nut allergy, it's a super allergen, the likelihood that your children have a nut allergy are each 50%. So there's huge genetic implications. So was I on or was I off on that point?
You're absolutely on, because my daughter does have a nut allergy, and I didn't suspect that I had one. And I also want to add that coffee showed up as an allergen for me. I've never liked coffee, but just a few days ago for Christmas, one of my other daughter was here, and she said, I can't drink coffee. I feel so sick afterwards. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's definitely genetic, because it showed up on my test.
Well, just think about how much self-trust that builds for you and for your daughter to be validated. Instead of being dismissed by allergists saying those tests are not valid, your reactions aren't real, your testing here is negative. I mean, you start to really feel like you're cuckoo, and it really erodes your self-trust. I mean, for me, I love the fact that this is scientific. There's data. It validates not only about you, it validates genetics and real medical issues and symptoms and root cause for your children.
Yeah, it's a validating experience for sure. Okay, so I want to hear, once you discovered that you had these sensitivities, many of them foods that you were consuming on a regular basis, you obviously removed those from your diet. And what has the journey been like since? How have the symptoms changed after dealing with food mapping and taking those sensitivities out?
Yeah, so my skin cleared. But I do want to add that it didn't happen immediately. And I know Dr. Maggie talked about I think the antibodies in the system, that I had a habit of being impatient and wanting results and not really sticking with things for a long term. So I learned from Dr. Maggie that, it really, my body needed time. And I just like did what I had to do. I just said, I'm going to stick with it. And even when my kids were like mocking me a little bit, like, oh, you're taking all these foods out and I don't think your skin looks good, because there was a little point where it felt like it was flaring, but then it just started clearing and clearing and clearing. Yeah. So you can see what it
So
looks
I
like.
love this because it's a scientific basis thing. Do you know that there is a scientific basis for how long it actually takes allergens to clear out your system, even 50%? It's like 6 to 8 weeks. And the other aspect of it is there's people that about 10% of individuals, even on the right foods that you remove, will go through a withdrawal syndrome from that food where you actually flare. And then if no one was here to tell you, hey, that's a good sign, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I should eat it again. So that's the problem. People don't understand this. Providers do not understand this.
Truly, truly makes a big difference. Okay, so you removed it. It was a slow process, but you mentioned the skin is now clear. I mean, I think you said eczema since the time you were a child, right?
Yeah, but it would come and go, come and go. And like this last one I think it started like before March, and then it just was just getting worse. Like it wasn't clearing. Yeah.
But now, how would you rate your skin?
But my skin looks great.
She's like, oh, my skin looks great.
It's great. And I don't have like the itch and the irritation and all that. Yeah.
It's gone.
Done.
Yeah.
Thing. And you had mentioned vertigo as well. Where do you stand with that?
Vertigo is fine. I mean, I followed the transform fundamentals. I wouldn't say prescription. I don't know what you call it, Dr. Maggie, but the protocol
System.
the system, right? Yeah. And so, the food mapping, and I did that too, but my vertigo is fine.
Okay. And think about that. How many people don't realize the vertigo, another word for it, dizziness, other words for some of these symptoms like POTS or dysautonomia, don't even realize it may have something to do with your food. Boom.
Anybody dealing with that, let us know. What are some of your symptoms that you're dealing with? Is it dizziness? Do you have skin issues? Do you have reflux issues? As I believe, Patty, you mentioned you had reflux as well, right?
Yes, I had where I had like didn't even want to eat. I had like bad episodes of reflux, and I started taking that digested chewable, and I'm fine. That and changing my diet, and yeah.
We're going to hear much more from you, Patty, but overall, I'm just curious to hear, how has this program and going through the food mapping system changed your life?
Well, it's changed my life a lot, because now I feel like now I know what I'm allergic to. And so I'm totally responsible whether I eat those foods or not. So like, I feel like if I want to take care of my health, I do what I need to do. So it's like, I know what not to do and what to do. So to me, it feels really liberating to have the information.
All right, congratulations, Patty. We're going to hear much more from you coming up in just a little bit, but we do have two other guests we'd like to introduce. So if you could stand by, we're going to have a quick chat with them. Thank you, Patty. Now I want to bring on Andre. Andre is somebody who was dealing with sensitivities that he did not realize that it was something that he was also consuming quite a lot. Andre, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm Andre. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Florida, and I'm an aspiring professional tennis player. I got food poisoning a couple of years ago while playing a tournament, and I never really recovered since then. I had like severe brain fog, like allergies to environmental stuff, and like when I would eat different foods and stuff like that, it would give me sinus and stuff like that. So I was just always looking for answers, and so that's how I got here.
Well, and as an athlete, your body is this vessel that you have to be able to rely on. And yet it was turning on you in confusing ways and you didn't know how to handle it. What were some of the things you tried previously to try to get a handle on what was happening?
Oh, I tried so much stuff. I've seen so many different doctors. I tried food sensitivity tests, food allergy tests. I tried stuff like ozone therapy. I tried So you probably heard of it. I probably tried it before, and nothing really
Tried
made any.
levitation? Did you levitate?
If there was a doctor out there that would prescribe it, I'd probably try it. Would try it.
So you really went through a lot, and I'm imagining the frustration level for you as well, building greater and greater. And you said you're only in your early 20s. You're starting to think, okay, is this going to be the rest of my life? How am I ever going to have the life that I dream about and being a professional athlete when I feel like this all the time? So you came across Dr. Maggie in the Transform program. How was that?
Oh, it was awesome. Actually, I was sitting in my room and I was just like, God, I really need some help here. Can you help me out? And not 10 seconds later, my mom burst through the door and said, Andre, I got to show you something. And she showed me a video from Dr. Maggie. And I said, well, it's a sign. I got to do this right now. So I did watch a little couple of videos and that's how I got here. So yeah.
You don't know how many people that I've interviewed who have graduated the program have told me that they did have, in their opinion, some sort of divine intervention that you explain as well. So I just find that very interesting. And, believe anybody's beliefs out there, believe what you may, but it seems like too many people have told me that for it to be a coincidence. Getting back to your story, Andre, though, so you signed up and I want to know, what did you learn about what was happening with your food selections?
So I've tried so many different diets, so many different things from different tests, and nothing really made any significant improvement. So I just want to know, what am I supposed to do? So when I finally got through the food mapping thing, there's only one thing I had on the test, and it was extremely off the charts. Just one thing, and it was eggs. And I eat eggs almost every single day. So it's funny. It's like I've removed it for a little bit, but not long enough to see a significant difference in the way food mapping tells you to. And so it's been about 5 weeks now of not eating eggs, and I do feel a significant difference. I have less brain fog. Um, I just in general have a little bit more energy. The biggest thing is sleeping. I sleep much better, which is surprising. You just from not eating something, you sleep better, but that's the way it is. So it's just extremely exciting. I can't wait for more. I can't wait to keep feeling better because it's only been 5 weeks. I see some of the other people in here and in the program, and they've stopped eating the bad foods they're not supposed to eat for their body, and they seem over the moon. So I want to be like that too.
And Dr. Maggie, maybe you could talk about this a little bit, because when we heard from Patty, it was a gradual process for her. And in fact,
Yeah.
we thought maybe it was even getting worse with her skin at the beginning before
Yeah.
it finally got a lot better and all clear. But contrast that with Andre, and he said, how quickly would you say, Andre, you noticed a difference in some of those symptoms? It sounds like
I'd
right
say,
away.
yeah, in the first 3 or 4 days, I noticed already a difference.
And you see that,
So
Dr. Maggie, it can go both ways.
Oh yeah. So some people will have immediate. I mean, some people within. I remember there was Marissa who went through our program, and she had found out that it was honey for her, and she was sitting behind a wall of honey because they grew bees and harvested honey, and it was honey for her. Like, it's interesting how sometimes it's one thing, right? But maybe the amount that he was consuming, the regularity that he was consuming. Sometimes some people will have very instantaneous 24 hours, 48 hours, they'll notice a difference. However, it kind of depends what level of histamine reaction that this food is causing. So sometimes if someone has more of an immediate type of reaction based on the histamine, they'll get some immediate results. But then there are longer term histamine pathways that are associated with hormone balance, brain fog, autoimmune issues, cardiovascular with POTS, right? So there are other systems that takes a longer period of time to impact. So sometimes some of those are days, some of those are weeks. And what I see, the cool thing is, whether you get reactions quick or you get reactions later, you are all getting improvement and you're all getting win after win after win. But teaching people the expected timeline and having them see other people and their trend, I think that's the validity. And that's, I think, the cool thing about our programs is that you get to watch other people go through their results and they're reporting back on their outcome, and seeing what's happening with other people and recognizing all these patterns gives you confidence and helps you gain self-trust to understand that there's a lot of different pathways to this, and they're all getting better. That's the key.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that, Dr. Maggie. And it's interesting to me too. You had mentioned earlier, some people's food sensitivity testing might show like 50 things pop up. Oh, you've got to eliminate all these foods. But yet for Andre, and through your expert opinion of understanding this system, it was just one food.
Well, that's the thing. And then Andre's case is not it's not unusual. It's not unusual for someone like Andre who came in, who's an athlete, or someone who, is very active, and they're having trouble. They're starting to lose weight because they've eliminated so much stuff, and it's impacting on their quality of life, their mobility, or even their sports, right? And their exercise tolerance. And it's so sometimes it's as simple as accurately identifying it's one thing and having the freedom and the confidence to reintroduce the other 99 things. That's real food freedom right there, while you're getting better and better and better. Because a lot of people get scared of reintroduction. What if you had accurate data so you know exactly what to introduce? How about that for confidence? How about that for pathway for getting better instead of being scared to death with every new introduction? Data driven reintroductions, really critical part of the system.
And Andre, I would love to hear from you in regards to that. How has going through this process impacted your confidence level and your overall just kind of ability to understand what is happening with your health?
Oh, it's insurmountable. It's unbelievable. It's wonderful. I don't have enough words to describe it. It's like I've tried for years and years and years to find out what's the problem and what's the solution and how do I get to that. And through this program and the food mapping, like I got the answer. I know what to do. And that's a big thanks to Dr. Maggie and the team. It's so awesome to have you guys that can help me and point me in the right direction. Like I'm hopeful and excited, and I'm looking forward to being able to play tennis again, which is something I've always wanted to do. And I couldn't really say like, yeah, it's going to happen now or then or wherever, but now I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so I'm running in that direction.
Yeah, feeling that much better.
Heck yes.
All right, Andre, we're going to hear a lot more from you. As we mentioned, we're going to hear more from Patty as well coming up in just a moment, but we still have a third guest that we would like to introduce. So thank you for your time for that, and we'll get right back with you. Now, though, we'd like to introduce our third and final guest of the evening, and that is Melissa. Melissa, when I asked her, hey, what can you remind me what was going on with you before? She said, oh, what wasn't going on? There was so much to talk about. So Melissa, now everybody, Melissa is a little under the weather right now. So she seems great to us, but I know you're not feeling wonderful tonight, Melissa. So thank you for doing this anyway. If you have a coughing fit, we know what's going on. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what was going on before you joined the Transform program and met Dr. Maggie.
I'm Melissa. I'm from South Carolina. I'm 46. I have 3 grown children. I finished Dr. Maggie's program. I completed it, I think almost 3 years ago now. It's been a long time, but still working the program.
You and me go way back.
Way back.
And I know I had alluded to this, but you were dealing with a lot of symptoms. Can you touch on just a few of the ones that were really impacting your life?
The pain, the fatigue, dangerous weight loss. Very dangerous weight loss was a big thing for me.
Yeah. And that had been going on for about how long?
For a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, and it just kept getting worse and worse until it just culminated into a huge disaster that I couldn't control.
Mm-hmm. And much like I had asked Andre, had you tried many things, I imagine, over those years of trying to get answers and trying to get help for this pain? I mean, nobody wants to live in pain, and nobody can live with that amount of fatigue to have a normal life. So what kinds of things had you tried?
I had various doctors. I was bounced around from specialist to specialist to specialist. I was doing my own research, and nobody could come up with any answers. This doctor was like, well, it could be this, well, it could be this, or just don't do that. And ultimately, they were more or less all just telling me that it was in my head.
Oh,
yeah, I got, it's all my fault. It was just in my head. So I knew it wasn't.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you felt the physical symptoms. The medical gaslighting is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
So you found Dr. Maggie through what means?
I was actually just scrolling through Facebook one day, and I came across the Transform page, and I thought it was clickbait at first. I was like, don't do it. But then I was like, yeah, let me just take a peek. And then I took a peek and started watching some of the videos and reading some of the testimonials, and everything just started clicking. I was like, that's it.
That's what you needed. And indeed, you signed up. Did you have hesitations after learning about it still to join the program?
No,
No.
not at all. Not at all. It it was like a breath of fresh air, because it was just like finally somebody understands, like these people are going through the same things I am. So, I was like, she's got to know something about it. If all these people with these same issues are coming here, there's
Yeah.
got to be more to it.
Evidence. That's the important thing. I mean, I think a lot of people are like, what if any of you are asking the question, is this real? I think it's important to find evidence. And so, some people even question if it's live. And I'm like we're in a day and age where people doubt authenticity and they doubt what they're seeing. I can tell you right now, we're going to put up a comment. Kristen Norton says, congratulations, Andre, was your duck egg positive? So I'm going to say, hi, Kristen. Now you guys know this is real. It's in real time, not recorded. It's real. It's live. Right.
Can you guys hear me okay? I think we're seeing just a little bit of video. Just give me a thumbs up, everybody, if you can see me and hear me okay.
We can hear you.
All right, so let's talk then about, we'll get to that question for his duck egg in just a minute, but let's continue on with Melissa here. Melissa, you joined the program without any hesitation. What did you learn about your food results?
I had got so bad that I really couldn't eat much of anything. Every morning I knew I had to put something in me. I would make these milkshakes with bananas and cinnamon. And I pretty much lived off of those, because I was at the point I wasn't digesting food. I wasn't holding any weight. I knew bananas, with the milk, I could maybe get a little bit of carbs in, just keep something in me. And I just felt awful all the time, just awful. When I did my food mapping, and it was just complete irony. I got it back. The 3 worst things to put in my body were any form of dairy, period, because I'm highly allergic to the casein, to the whey. I could have 0 dairy. Cinnamon was off the charts, and bananas was off the charts. And every single day, 2 or 3 times a day, I'm drinking banana milkshakes with cinnamon. So I'm just beating myself up over here. Like, let's do it again.
That's cold. How many people out there, if you found out it was bananas or dates, would be like, man, I eat that every day, and I thought it was healthy. I'd like to know how people would have that reaction. Type in chat.
Yeah.
It's true. And so you were like, okay, these are foods I've been consuming. And as you learn in the program, when you're consuming foods that don't agree with your body, it is creating this firestorm inside you. And just Dr. Maggie might be able to talk a little bit about that. What is it doing to your body, Dr. Maggie, to actually be taking in these foods that don't agree with you?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people call it leaky gut. But what I'm going to tell you guys is that I've taught on this about leaky gut quite a bit. But what happens is, if you are, number one, have poor digestion in the first place. So write some notes, everybody. Okay. This is noteworthy. Let's get me on the screen so then I can make this point. Take these notes, everybody. Which is that when you don't digest your food, digestion is there to take your food and break it into smaller and smaller pieces. And when you get to very small pieces, it's when you actually decrease the allergen load on the food. So digestion is critical to decrease allergens. So what happens when steps in your digestion are broken, which they are, as I said, 50% of your reactions are related to digestion problems. So what happens is that poor digestion in the first place causes it not to be broken down to smaller, less allergenic particles. Then what happens is people have a huge allergenic presentation in the gut, which means that their gut sees tons of allergens. And when it does, it sees a lot of stuff it's allergic to. All these cells start to war with it. And that's when you got these white blood cells coming in, mast cells coming in, and it creates a firestorm of histamines, which is our allergic chemicals. But histamines then triggers all sorts of problems, swelling in the gut. Think about allergies when it hits your ears, nose, and sinus. It waters, right? Because all those blood vessels are swollen. What happens when all the blood vessels in your gut is swollen? Well, it's just like that. It becomes all red, swollen, leaky with it. And the war with it creates an environment where, guess what? It disrupts the cells that should be forming a tight wall. They get broken. And when they get broken, all this extra food allergen goes in even more. Infectious organisms go in even more. And you got a firestorm happening when you continue to eat foods that you had no idea, even when you thought they were healthy. This was what was happening to Melissa. Why do you think she was in so much pain? I'm going to give you, boom, I'm going to drop a truth bomb right here. And you want to take notes here. Increased histamines isn't just responsible for allergic related responses like Patty was having with eczema. Increased histamine has a direct pathway to what we call a pro-inflammatory pathway that leads to pain. Pain. So eating bananas and dates and cinnamon was causing her to have chronic pain on a daily basis while she thought she was eating healthy. That's what was happening.
Gosh. And then was that, I imagine, surprising for you, Melissa? Thank you so much, Dr. Maggie, for that amazing explanation. Once you removed those foods from your diet, tell us what happened.
It didn't take long to start seeing a difference, I guess, because I had been eating so much of them within 2 or 3 days. I mean, I didn't feel nauseous constantly because I obviously wasn't eating it anymore. But and then within, a couple of weeks, the pain got better. The joint swelling, my digestion was non-existent. So eliminating that was putting me on the right road for digestion, which in turn was helping me gain some of my weight back, that and some other things, because I could get to where I could absorb nutrients from the foods I could eat.
How did you know your digestion was non-existent, if you may elaborate?
I was just nauseous all the time. There was nothing to digest. I couldn't eat anything.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And
How many people are nauseated?
And with a matter of days, it went away.
Yeah. A couple of days when I started getting out there, the nausea was subsiding.
Okay. Fascinating. And then you mentioned, I imagine, the pain and the fatigue. I know when I've talked to you before, it was crushing for you. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you have rated that prior to the program?
With everything that I had going on, not just the food intolerances, it was like off the charts 10 plus.
Yeah.
I had a lot more going on, but it was a big difference just eliminating the foods.
Okay. Because after, how are you doing? You mentioned you graduated the program a couple years ago now. Where would you rank those symptoms now? If you were 10 plus before, where are you now?
2 on a bad day.
Okay. So your life has dramatically turned around.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you can do now that you could not have even dreamed about doing before the program?
I travel a lot. I can fly now. I can actually go away from the house. But I do really good at maintaining my weight now. I'm really good at maintaining my weight. That was a huge, huge obstacle for me. Because it was dangerously low and I was kind of like powerless to stop it. But I mean, I can do daily activities now. I can get up, I can clean. I have grandchildren that I watch, and before that was not even an option. I couldn't drag myself out of the bed to even tend to myself. So watching another human being was non-existent.
Okay. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. What a big turnaround. If there's somebody out there watching you tell your story who is maybe dealing with similar symptoms, who wonders, I don't know, is food mapping maybe the key for me? Are there things that that I'm eating right now? And are there digestive points that I should be monitoring? What would you say to them about going through this program? Who is this for?
It's for anybody that has any doubts. If you have any inkling that maybe, well, the doctors are telling me don't eat this, just don't eat this, but you don't eat this and it's not helping, then it's you're not doing the right thing. I mean, if you want to feel better, period, you need to do the food mapping, because in my opinion, that's where it all starts.
Okay, appreciate that. Now, I know Dr. Maggie has a lot of questions for the panel. Dr. Maggie, it is so refreshing to hear these stories, because these lives have turned around as a result of your expertise in working and developing the food mapping system. So I just think there's a lot more to be gained from this conversation.
I think there's a missing link. I hope I'm no longer lagging. Sorry, some internet issues. But I really look at how doctors are trained to deal with food. And I think about I'm 27 years in practice, and I've had 16 years of experience as the functional medicine doctor doing over 10,000 tests at this point on patients and learning from that experience, right? So I love the fact that I'm taking the collective wisdom of all those 16 years, and all the 10,000 tests and putting it into a program to train people like Andre, Melissa, and Patty to be like literally from zero to hero on not only their food clarity, the confidence around food, their food freedom, but also their digestion, right? So I think that's missing. There is little experience out there. There is little training out there, and there's very little clinical experience with someone who's done this many tests on this many people. It just doesn't exist out there. So I'm really proud of being able to create a program where I'm teaching other people the wealth of that experience over 16 years into a program like my food mapping masterclass. So I consider it a privilege, but I also, it's sad to me that this doesn't exist anywhere else and I had to create it.
Yeah. Yeah. And anybody want to speak to that? Because I know all of you had years, it sounds like, of frustration before finding Dr. Maggie.
I had doctors, as far as the food goes, when I would question things like that, I had several doctors just say, well, if it bothers you, then just don't eat that. And so just don't eat this and just don't eat that. And then you're just like, well, what do you eat?
Accuracy. That's what's missing. Your doctor shouldn't be guessing. You shouldn't be guessing. Accuracy, absolute 100% accuracy is missing from people's treatment and testing they're getting for food reactions.
And here's a question from somebody who's saying food issues can have an effect on spinal pain. And I think that this underlies a bigger point here in that food issues can contribute to pain entirely. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. I know it was the case for you, Melissa, but people don't always connect the dots. And certainly your allergist might not be connecting the dot. Your GI doctor might not be connecting the dots. So yes, I'll let Dr. Maggie speak to that more, but absolutely. And we talked about this in our last week live as well, about how some of these things that you don't necessarily realize are connected.
Well, I know we're talking about food trauma, food reactions, food allergies, food sensitivities, all these terms, but really the number of symptoms that food is linked to is astronomical. So when people say, do you treat this? Do you treat this? My goodness, what isn't food related with? So we deal with people with fibromyalgia. We deal with people with every sort of autoimmune disease, every form of POTS dysautonomia, every form of severity of mast cell activation syndrome. And we deal with kids with ADD, ADHD, autism spectrum, PANS and PANDAS, where food mapping was the critical linchpin for turning these things around. And so you guys know food matters, but the thing is there's a utter dire lack of medical training and understanding of just how food is linked to every single one of these diagnoses and vertigo, pain, you name it, every single symptom, every single diagnosis that you're dealing with, food mapping is critical.
Thanks, Dr. Maggie. And I want to hear from each of our panelists now, a question for each of you. What is it like working live one-on-one with Dr. Maggie in this setting to have an expert actually go through and evaluate what your results are with your food sensitivities and also learn from her about digestion? Let's start with you, Patty.
It's really amazing just because the wealth of knowledge that Dr. Maggie has. That it's very there's precision in how she approaches each person's test results and also other things she asks about, but there's a precision, and it's also sort of nuance. And a lot of times I'd hear so much information that I had not heard before, heard anywhere else. Yeah, I mean, she really is a master at this.
Thank you, Patty. Andre, what can you add to that?
I think it's an amazing experience. I mean, I've been to so many doctors, like I've said before, and definitely speaking to Dr. Maggie, she is the best doctor I've ever spoken to or had conversations with, like by far. I mean, it's like when she speaks, it's backed by knowledge. She's dealt with someone that's had the problem I've had before, or the person next to me that's had the problem before. So she already has the answer. And not only does she have the answer, but she gives it to me right away. Here it is. This is what you have to do. There's no roundabout nonsense that I have to go through. It's just right there, right in my face, and I'm ready to go forward and get better.
I love
Thank you.
that.
Melissa, I see you nodding your head a little bit, concurring. What did you want to add?
No, it was enlightening. It was very validating. Like for me, after so many people telling me it was, it's all in your head, and when she knew that it was not in my head, and it was very validating for me. And to have somebody have that knowledge and actually be like, okay, yeah, this really is going on with her, but we can fix it. We can fix it, and we did. So it was very enlightening.
And I really no longer want to keep the system a secret. Like it's not a secret. And I loved like DS was on YouTube was mentioning. And how many of you are watching on YouTube right now? If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, ring the bell right now. But I look at DS and she's saying like this should be the standard of care. And the truth is it's not. In fact, it's a damn shame. It's secret. So I think if there's anybody that that can benefit from watching this video, type their name in the chat on YouTube, on Facebook, share this video with them. I want everybody to know that this is an answer, that there is absolutely solutions to these problems, and they're right here. But yes, so scream from the rooftops for me. It makes I think it's a damn shame it's a secret, and I do not believe it should be. And I 100% agree it should be standard of care.
Thank you, Dr. Maggie. Everybody who's watching, and we do have a lot of people watching on all of the different platforms. If you have any questions for Dr. Maggie or for our panelists who have gone through the food mapping system, please go ahead and feel free to type them in, and we might be able to have time to get to some of them. Because Dr. Maggie, it's so funny. I have to bring up this one for you, and all of the panelists probably can answer this too. But about digestion here, and do stomach acid reducers cause more problems, Dr. Maggie?
This is a really great question, and I want everybody to take notes on this one, including all you doctors out there. And we've had plenty of doctors go through our program and learn this point. Your regular doctors are trained to think that when you have heartburn, for example, or you have any sort of discomfort in your gut, is to give you acid reducer or suppressing medications like Prilosec, Zantac, Nexium, you name it. And they think, and they're trained, that the underlying problem is that there is too much stomach acid. So what they're doing is taking the medication and shutting off your stomach acid. The truth of the matter is those symptoms are actually caused by two major things. One thing is a digestion issue. One thing is there's typically little to no stomach acid, number one. Number two, it's caused by reacting to food allergens coming in, which is another thing they don't address. Number three, it could be related to even gut infection like H. pylori, other bacteria, fungal organisms. So by giving an acid reducer in a situation where you already have low stomach acid, here's what happens. You reduce the acid, you cut that major step in digestion, you have more and more food allergens presenting higher allergen loads downstream. So it makes food allergies worse. Number one. Number two, number two is, all the infections that people are like worried about also is that stomach acid is there to kill infections. We use vinegar to disinfect, and it has the same effect in your gut to actually kill and prevent infection, whatever infection you're dealing with. So we're taking someone with heartburn, shutting off their stomach acid, calling it good. Meanwhile, it becomes a welcome mat for all sorts of infection. And we wonder why people have recurrent gut infections over and over and over again when we shut off a critical step in their basically military against infection. So it's a huge problem. It's a huge misunderstanding in the general medical world, whether it's GI or your family doctor, your allergist. They don't understand digestion, and they got the problem wrong. And by prescribing these acid-reducing medications, they're creating downstream health problems that are catastrophic.
A lot of people are seeing the light now after you explaining that, Dr. Maggie, because it's probably the first time some people have ever heard that information, because it's just not something widely available that you're hearing. Another question for you, Dr. Maggie. People want to know, can food sensitivities trigger Hashimoto, autoimmune disease?
Wendy, that's a really great question. The answer is hell yes. So part of the program and part of what I teach is also for people to understand that food allergies, food sensitivities is a huge trigger of autoimmune disease. So many people have autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's, Graves, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, Sjogren's, rheumatoid arthritis, you name it. And many people don't even know they have autoimmune disease, but they do. And they are being told by their rheumatologist or their GI that food doesn't matter. But in my experience, it is the biggest trigger of all autoimmune disease. It's actually the food that you're eating. And food is supposed to heal you. And then we wonder why people have so much food trauma, where every bite something bad or horrible goes wrong. And it seems sometimes unrelated to your gut. It's to your thyroid. And then you're just brain foggy and tired all the time. And they say it has nothing to do with food when it's a damn shame. It's the major cause of the worst thing of those autoimmune attacks.
Mm. And yet doctors will tell you, oh, diet doesn't matter. I've had doctors specifically tell me that when I'm like, well, how can I deal with this issue? Is there any specific diet that I should be on or foods I should eat? They'll tell you diet doesn't matter. And you know what? I'm glad that they didn't give me a recommendation, because it would not have been personalized to me as it is when you go through the food mapping system. And so I actually went through it as well and was able to get information from you, Dr. Maggie. From our panelists now, I'm curious to hear, this obviously has impacted all of your lives in a big way. How has it also impacted perhaps the lives of those around you? Andre, I know you mentioned your mom came to you and said, you need to do this. Is there any way you could speak to, has this impacted lives of loved ones as well for you so much better?
Yeah, for sure. Both my parents I'm really close with, and they helped me like with all the stuff I went through, especially since when I first got sick, I was about 17 years old. So I'm still a teenager at that time and not really making decisions on my own, especially being that sick. So they were really out there trying to help me get better. And my mom is still years and years later looking up stuff. How can my son get better? How can my son get better? And my father doing the same thing. So this isn't just for me, it's for my family and for the people who supported me and helped me. So I'm so excited for all of us together to like be happy and enjoy me feeling better, because it's a family thing. So it's really awesome.
You know what's cool too, Anne, is that when we do this program online together, Andre's family was able to join some of these calls. And I don't know how many of the videos they were watching together, but it's really cool to see families do this program with each other and with each other, learn together and be the part of the solution together, right? So I love that learning has become a family affair for Andre. So that interestingly, I mean, I don't know how people are we just had Chris tell us that not only was her food mapping was all implementing her, but it's implementing her son. So it's like it really has a ripple effect that can I think it's a generation where it minimally impacts 3 generations: the generation above you, the generation with you. Let's say Andre has brothers or sisters, and then our children. So Patty mentioned all the genetic information for her children. So minimally, the one person that does this affects minimum of 3 generations because there's a huge genetic component here.
Yeah. And Kristen mentioned agreeing the generational impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Patty, did you want to speak to that?
It's interesting because my family now, both my husband and my children, are really aware of how they feel when they eat certain foods, and will come and say like, oh, I don't think I should eat that anymore. I don't feel so good afterwards. So, they went from making fun of me to now actually like really sensing their body when they eat foods. And my husband even noticed, I don't remember what food it was, but he said, oh, I ate a lot of whatever it was the day before. And he's like, I had so much joint pain the next day. So, just by me doing it, they're starting to like pay attention more to their diet.
Connecting the dots. And Maggie, also, I wanted to point out, Andre went through this still living with his parents. And I guess I was a little bit surprised to see just how many parents do jump on board and sign their children up for this. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that, because I know there are so many parents out there who are desperate for answers for their children, who might be dealing with behavioral problems, digestive distress, whatever it is, autoimmune disease, and they have not been able to get help. And as a parent, you will do anything for your child. So you really do see a lot of parents come through who are wanting to get help for their kids.
Well, I was one of those parents, and I am one of those parents where my own kids really struggled with this. My daughter, severe eczema, my son, spectrum disorder. Nieces and nephew. My nephew had eczema so bad it was, and multiple food allergy issues. And so for me, I think, parents are literally warriors out there trying to figure out a solution and any solution for their child. But the problem is the internet is not your friend, because too much information from, disreputable sources, and also motivation, also generalized information that's personalized to no one. And so we end up like with parents, almost like a chicken with our head cut off, trying to eliminate this, eliminate that, eliminate that, eliminate that in our growing children who have really strong nutritional developmental needs for a wide variety of food. So it can actually have a really negative impact on their growth, on their brain development, on their inflammatory issues, right? So all that. So it's like, where is a parent supposed to go with this? And so I think anybody who's a parent here who's struggling with a child with any of these issues, type it in chat, because you are a warrior here. And here's the deal is, who do you know how to trust? And this is what I'm going to tell you is, look for the evidence of success, because you know what? Success leaves clues. This is why Andre, Melissa, and Patty are here. This is why I'm here. I want to show you the evidence of the success that these three people had, and what are the clues that they're leaving you. What have you learned? Type in chat. What have you learned from Andre, Melissa, Patty? What clue did their success leave you, that either as a parent or as a person for yourself, that you learned today as an actionable item to solve the problems, that any health issue that you have? What's something you learned? Type it in chat right now. And as a parent, you are an advocate for your child. And when you know better, you do better. And today, you know better.
Dr. Maggie, thank you. Question for the panelists now. Based on everything that you went through before this, and perhaps everything you spent from a financial standpoint to try to get answers and to try to get your life back on track, do you think that something like this is worth it for those out there watching to invest in for a one and done class for my food mapping masterclass? Go ahead, and we'll start with you, Melissa.
Absolutely. I've probably spent more money on scans, labs, copays, different specialists than I did in total for the program, with no success, no true results. In the program, it's not even about the money. It's not something money can buy, your well-being. So I mean, it's absolutely worth it for the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. People do want to know that, because truly you're making an investment in yourself. And perhaps sometimes we're not used to making an investment in our health, and we're not thinking about, how is this going to give back to me in the long run? But what would you say, Patty, to that same question?
I would say that it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it to have definitive answers. And I spent a lot of time and energy trying to follow what other people did for their issues that weren't customized to me.
Yeah.
Andre, did you want to touch on it too? I know you said you were living under your mom and dad's roof at the time, but the investment, do you feel like it's something that people out there really need to give some thought to? Because I've seen your life turn around in a matter of days and then weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I think health is invaluable. I'm very thankful for my parents for being able to help me get through this program. But I mean, just think about it. Like, if you have some severe problem that you can't fix, you don't know how to fix it, you can try the program, or you can try the food mapping. Like, it's something unbelievable and wonderful you can do. Let's say you're even not severely suffering. What if you have joint pain, or you have something like you don't sleep well? You can just do the food mapping and check something off the box. And if you see that it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. But if there's something there, your life will be infinitely better for the rest of your life. And that's something that money can buy. So I highly recommend it.
And that's an interesting point, Dr. Maggie. He mentioned, if you don't see something there, I think that many people, you're going to learn something, right, Dr. Maggie? Like, when you're going through a food mapping system, you absolutely are getting value to learn about digestion, to learn about some of these other issues that you were talking about.
So here's the thing. I talk a lot and I teach a lot about the devil you know, but the worst is the devil you don't know. And a lot of pieces of this around, there's so many gems in the program that is about the devil you don't know. That is like the game changer. There are a lot of these little critical pieces. I remember just even thinking about eggs, and it goes back to the Andre egg question, which was one of the critical things I've learned in all the years dealing with food mapping was how to actually tell if an egg result is real or fake.
Mm.
And being able to definitively look at Andre and say, dude, that's real. And it's 100% real with 100% confidence. I think for me is it's wonderful to have that level of certainty, but also to impart that level of certainty in this young man and his parents. And it's proven because the moment, he within a couple days of it gone, boom, like there's data for that. There's data for that. There's data for that. So yeah, I love being able to provide that level of certainty for people. And that's what people really need.
Thank you. I know we're coming up on an hour here, and we did lose, I think, Melissa, but she is back now. So just a final thought from our panelists before Dr. Maggie, I'll let you close it out and share anything else you wanted to share about the food mapping masterclass. But a final thought, just really briefly from our panelists, anything you'd like to say to anybody that's either watching or to Dr. Maggie herself. We'll start with you, Patty, please.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Maggie for creating this system. It just feels so good to have answers. I want to say, like, someone in the chat was sort of questioning the test results, and I feel like my health is validates these test results that I got. I followed. Like eliminating any allergens that showed up, and my skin cleared, and I don't have vertigo. So for me, like, that shows yeah, this information that I got is real, and it works. And yeah, I would encourage anyone who is struggling to sign up and to enroll and to take the leap of faith, and then to really follow it. Follow what Dr. Maggie says. Like, keep the faith and follow it, and then the results will happen.
You put the work in, you'll see the results.
Yes.
All right. Patty, thank you. Andre, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I just like to say, after everything and all the stuff I've been through, I can definitely say Dr. Maggie is at the forefront of healing people. The program is designed in such a way that you will see results, and food mapping is a core and key part of that. And if you do it, you will see something that will benefit you. So, yeah.
Appreciate it, Andre. And finally, Melissa, what can you leave us with?
I would encourage anybody with any of these struggles to take a chance on this, because if you're in the bad enough place where you think you need it, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And there's not a better way to do this. So I would definitely encourage anybody to just take that chance, because you won't regret it.
Dr. Maggie, it is really inspiring to hear from, as we mentioned, real people who have gotten real results. And these are just 3 of thousands of people who I know lives have been turned around thanks to the food mapping program and everything that you have created. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about this, signing up for this new class, and anything else you'd like to say about it?
Yeah, my food mapping masterclass is an entire program that encompasses every single quadrant that's required for people to get from food trauma to food freedom. So if you use this QR code, it'll take you to the page with all the information about it, because that's how we're gonna, when you enroll in the program, you can do it straight on that page. And there's also even payment plans there. You will be shipped a test kit. You will be enrolled into Transform You, so you'll have immediate access to the training modules. And then there's going to be a week-long live training and results review session that's going to be happening once in January, and also again in February. That's happening. So there's multiple dates that you will have that live week review session that you can choose from, where we get to kick ass, tick names, and chew bubble gum together. So this is a very unique experience. And this is for my food mapping masterclass. So you could click that link. There's a link in chat that we'll share, but you can also use this QR code. And then there are also people that will be debating whether am I going to do the food mapping program or do I want the whole transform program, because I have a lot of other issues I want to address. For anybody who's on the fence about which program they need to enroll in, the best thing to do is to book a chat with our team. And there's a link there to book a call if you have any questions, so we can get to know you and what's going on with you. We have various different types of programs, and we want to customize a specific plan for your problem. Everyone's needs are going to be different.
Dr. Maggie, thank you so much. Thank you for not only your time today, but for developing this system, for taking the time to learn about it yourself. I know your own blood, sweat, and tears went into this through your own health struggles and your family's struggles. And again, to anybody watching who missed last week, if you do want to learn even more and you want to dive even deeper, you can catch the replay from last week's live talk as well. But this has been really enlightening. Thank you to all of our panelists for being here. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on all of your success. And on behalf of Dr. Maggie Yu and myself, thank you all so much for watching tonight.
Thanks, everybody.